Alright guys, so I mentioned in the last video I did at the start of it, if you saw the last video, if you haven't, I'll put a card somewhere up here. But coming up here shortly on the car, I am getting, it's not like firework. We're pretty close to the 4th of July, so probably gonna be getting a lot of that. Anyway, so I'm gonna be getting a nitrous kit here on blue here. I'm gonna be purchasing it here rather shortly, but it's not gonna be on the car till next season. I'm gonna do some NA runs at the track to see what it can do naturally aspirated before I put nitrous on it. Then after the nitrous, I'm gonna go supercharger more than likely, but I'm gonna let you guys choose which supercharger I put on the car. And by doing that, all you need to do, pick up a Trigger Society shirt. As soon as I sell 400 shirts, I will take a poll and I will have you guys decide so whether it's going to be probably a Whipple, an ESS, Pro Charger, maybe a 4th option as well, but I will let you guys decide what blower I put on this car as soon as I sell 400 shirts. Now I mentioned I'm going to go nitrous, but if I sell the shirts rather quickly, I'm just going to skip that all together and go blower, maybe blower and nitrous, I don't know, but we'll see. But as soon as I get those sold, you guys will decide what goes on this. I'll put a link in the description. Help myself out, help out the channel, snag up a shirt. All right, I got this guy back with me today. So we are here with James because last video we went to Mexico and we mentioned he needed to get some sort of like a cold air intake, like a JLT or something of that sort. So he actually spoke with his tuner through Lund, and they said it's actually, you don't need to go through the whole process. If you're just basic bolt-on with E85, you know, maybe exhaust and stuff like that. So you don't really need to spend the money. This is coming from Lund, apparently, right?
My tuner's like, your best bet is just put a drop-in filter and call it good.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. We're going to swap out that for the drop-in K&N.
Yeah.
Okay, and then before we do that, we're going to, actually probably after, since he said his inlet temps were about 110.
Yeah. And
then after we swap it in, we're gonna compare that to if the temps drop down a little bit, see if that helps a little bit. So if anyone that has Gen 3, Gen 2, it might not necessarily be necessary to spend $200, $300, $400 on a full cold air intake system. You might want to just get the filter itself. But before we do any of that, we're going to do a little bit of stuff here on my car. We're going to pull it forward a little bit because the car's been sitting for a few days, so it's not like hot, like the engine's hot and the exhaust. I need to adjust the Corsa exhaust mufflers a little bit. They're kind of off a little bit. Sometimes you gotta like readjust them. Sometimes they can hang down a little bit. You gotta just tighten them back up again a little bit. So we're gonna adjust the mufflers on these things. Yes, anytime you do like aftermarket exhaust or like axle backs, you can tell it not that big of a difference, but you know what, it bothers me. So we just want to just, it's kind of pretty close over there on that side. We're just going to adjust that so it's a little more even. And then same on this side. This one's not as bad, but it's definitely, you're a lot closer on that side. So we're just going to tighten it up and make sure it looks even. So mind you, it's like 100 degrees outside, and I had to flip the car around for extra room, but I just jacked it up on one side and that's all I did. Fucking sweating my balls off right now. So I'm trying to convince this guy that he should probably start his own YouTube channel. He's got, you know, a Performance Pack 2020 Gen 3 10R80. Drop a comment, let me guys know what you think. If he started a channel, I think he should. I mean, he does everything with me anyway. We can make content together. He'd be good at it. He's doing what I did. I sat on the fence to start a YouTube channel for like probably 3 years or longer. So I think you should. I think you should. Drop a comment if you guys would subscribe to his channel. I think you should. Okay, I think that's about as close as we're gonna get it. That one is off by maybe 1/4 of an inch compared to that one. I'm not really too concerned about it, but it is a little better than last time. So we're gonna just take my car out for a cruise. After we get the car up to temp, we're gonna compare my inlet temps to what his are after he does his intake on his car to see if what they say is actually true, if you don't actually need to go full colder intake system like a JLT with the piping and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, they just recommended to just get a drop-in filter unless you go like full bolt-on with headers and all that kind of stuff. Colder intake doesn't really make that drastic of a change for the money that you spend on it, is essentially what they were trying to explain, which in essence I can agree with. I spent probably $300 on mine and I probably gained maybe 10 horsepower. So you can, it looks better. I told him he probably still should get the JLT because like I said, it'll look better, but he doesn't care about looks. He just wants to performance. I like to have performance and look nice and sexy with a blue car. So we'll get this thing up to temp and we'll see what they compare to his. All right, part of the reason we want to get in the car, because it's so goddamn hot outside and air conditioning right now is wonderful. So we're not going to Mexico or anything like that today in this video, but we're just going to compare my my inlet air temps to what his will be after he puts his air intake on his car to see if it is anything, you know,
drop-in
attempts. Right now I'm sitting
a drop-in filter.
It's a drop-in filter. He's not
putting an intake system.
Not a whole like JLT intake system with plastic tubing, carbon fiber inlet tubes, none of that shit. So let's see, right now I'm sitting at 110. I don't know if the glare can see that. My inlet temps right now are sitting at 109. Right now, 108. Obviously, if you're sitting in traffic, you know it increases where you're at the track. I'm at 107. Yours says yours was 110 cruising?
Yeah.
At 70?
Of course. My car was at operating temperature as well.
I'm at operating temp now. So I'm at 105 right now going to
What's
70.
your cylinder head temperature? Your cylinder head's not even hot yet. Is that 189?
189. So we're gonna get this thing, we're gonna lap around, see if it's any better. All right, so we got to operating temp right now. My cylinder head temp, I'm at like 192, between 190 and 192. My inlet air temps were 103. It did creep up a little bit because I was at a stop, so it's going back down. It's at 104. I was at 103. You can see that, I'll zoom in, but right there, at 104. It'll probably get down to 103. So I'm at 103 right now. So he said Henry was not Henry. This guy's James.
Wow.
Sometimes I don't know who's in my car.
Obviously.
Point of this, that the whole point of the reason why I wanted to put this together is because, you know, maybe you don't need to spend hundreds of dollars on a JLT colder intake if you're just basic bolt-ons, you don't have boosts, you don't have headers. For the money that you spend, Lund was saying it's not really worth spending that much for an intake when you might just get, you know, 5 to 10 horsepower, roughly. Depends on how hot it is outside and all that kind of stuff comes into play, but it might not be necessary. So we're going to slap his on, get his up to operating temp and see if it's closer to mine. I think it will be, because it's going to be more airflow. Factory inlet size, obviously. Mine's still factory inlet size, so
Let's
not
see
bad.
if K&N, they're all talking instead of just walking.
All this is just a science experiment. All it is, pretty much. Come on. Straight back. That's good. All right. So this is what they recommended for us, or well, Lund specifically.
Not so much K&N, but the drop-in.
Just a standard, but it's from K&N, and we're just going to take this out. We're going to take out the old factory. It's nothing fancy. It's still going to look the same, but it's going to be just a K&N air filter. So if anyone's interested in doing something like this, I will put a link to where he purchased this from. You guys can just click on it if you guys are looking to get something like this. If you don't care, you want a big, fancy, sexy cooler intake, you could still go that route. But performance-wise, for the money, it's not going to be that much of a difference, I think. For just basic bolt-ons, and he still has factory headers. And then comparing that, his inlet temps to mine, see if it's about the same. She is dirty. Yeah, so if anyone that hasn't seen the video I did, I just have a Corsa cooler intake. This didn't require a tune. I did this before I got my tune, before I did E85, just a drop-in air filter. It's got the tube. It looks better, and I got it because you didn't need to get a tune on it. So, and it's a closed box. It kind of helps out with the heat from the engine bay. Okay, so after about 4 hours of manual labor to take it apart, put it back in, we finally got his air intake back in there. But yeah, just slides right in. So, do you think it's going to be like any improvement? I think his inlet temps are going to be a little bit cooler. It's going to breathe better than stock. Yeah. So,
because I mean the old one, I mean you held it up to the sun, you couldn't see through.
You can see through this one.
Yeah.
It's just better airflow.
Yeah.
So I think your inlet temps are going to be a lot closer to mine, if not the same.
Maybe more free flowing.
Maybe more free flowing. You might get a little more power. We'll see.
I mean, it's cloth.
Yeah.
Compared to paper.
A lot of people might think this isn't a big issue, but it is for people that don't see a necessary reason to spend $300-400 on a cooler intake when you're naturally aspirated, and you're probably going to stay that way for a while. This is the best bang for your buck option to go. You might be sacrificing 5-10 horsepower, maybe. So I don't know who this slobby guy is. Not very good at signing cars. You think after thousands of cars he'd sign, you could actually read slob. Just kidding. It's Aaron Shelby. His handwriting is about as bad as mine. Alright, so he's almost up to operating temp. I think it does a drastic improvement over the factory OEM air filter. But he's at 107. His air inlet temp's right. Yeah. So he's already 3 degrees colder. We're gonna flip around, see if it gets any colder, and then he's gonna do a watt pull to see if it feels any. Now it's just the air filter. It's just not even a colder intake. It's just slight improvement over what stock is.
106.
106. So you're already 4 degrees cooler than what you were. Already it's a win. And you spent how much on it? 60 bucks. You don't get the glam and the sexiness of a colder intake over the factory older intake, but it's already an improvement over stock. So right now we're at 99 degrees at 7:23 in the evening.
Inlet temp just dropped to 104.
So he's at 104. Mine was at 103. So he's already dropped 6 degrees over stock. All I did was a drop-in air filter, and he spent less than 100 bucks. And we're probably gonna do a hit here to see if it kind of feels. It's all about airflow and keeping everything cooler, and it already has. And he hardly spent any money. Send it.
Seems more responsive.
Yeah, it's a little bit more peppier.
Yeah.
And that was just keeping it in drive, standard mode, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
As soon as I gunned it, it was like it didn't hunt at all. It just.
Well, it's getting more airflow, and it's just
And then So I would say our science experiment worked. He has a cold air kit, Corsa.
I spent probably $350 on it.
And I spent 60 bucks on a K&N filter. And the inlet air temps are just a little bit higher. A degree higher than.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe worth it.
Now, like I said, I know I said this before, but if you just want to spend the extra and get a slightly larger air intake, it looks better. It's a larger tube. You'll get a little bit more power out of it. But that's not the point of this. The whole point of this is for the money. If you just want to get more airflow, keep things cooler in the dead heat of summer, especially here in Texas when it's like basically cremated every time you step outside. So it definitely keeps things cooler, and you're not spending nearly as much as a colder intake. So what I think, if you don't care how it looks like, I'll put a link, you guys can click on it, and it's definitely worth the buy. All right, so we're about to close this out, but James just told me we use any excuse possible to make trips down to Mexico. So probably maybe the weekend after the 4th of July,
yeah,
we'll do some evening pulls, because it is a little bit cooler. It's a little bit below 100 degrees, and we get a little bit of shade. So instead of me beating him by this much, if this is like a couple car lengths, it'll be probably like maybe that much, if that, maybe. So we'll see any excuse to go down to Mexico.
We'll see if the science experiment works.
And then Anthony, I know we kept saying he's going to come out with us here soon. We did have a couple others scheduled to make a vacation road trip down here across the border. So the air intake, the air filter, the link is in the description. Best bang for your buck to lower the inlet temps and pick up a few ponies.
Few ponies,
and it is a little bit peppier. So the best bang for your buck compared to spending $300 to $400 on a colder intake. But on that note, we're going to close this out. Say bye.
Bye.
We'll see you guys next one. Hit subscribe if you haven't. We'll see you later.